Welcome to day 33 of the Personal Tanya. Today's date is the 24th day of the month of Teves. It is the yahrzeit of the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, who passed away on this date, corresponding to December 15th of 1812. And we are talking about the second part of chapter 15 with game-changing inspirations from the Daily Tanya in 5 minutes or so. Today's big idea is that life is supposed to be challenging. In today's Tanya, the Alter Rebbe lifts up the Beinoni, the Jew that's struggling, and he tells them, don't feel bad. Don't feel unworthy just because you're not the tzaddik. You are not less than the perfect Jew, the tzaddik, the one who's tamed his animal soul. The fact that you struggle with your animal soul is actually a great thing, and God derives great pleasure from your struggle. You are a hero because that is what God wants from you. What the Alter Rebbe tells us in today's Tanya is that life isn't meant to be stress-free because God wants you to go above and beyond your comfort level. God wants you to break free from your comfort zones, and serving God means to go beyond your nature. Avoda, divine service, means breaking free from your comfort zones, and that's exactly what the Beinoni is doing all day, every day. Every thought, speech, and action is a battle between his godly soul and his animal soul, and therefore, instead of looking at your situation as a Beinoni, as your problem, it's not your problem, it's your assignment, it's your mission. It's exactly what God wants you to be doing right now. The way the Alter Rebbe explains this idea in today's Tanya is by quoting a story from the Talmud about the donkey drivers, the taxi drivers of the olden days. They would charge one zuz, one coin, for a ride of 10 parsa. But if you wanted to go just one more parsa, 11 parsa in total, you would have to pay 2 coins. So 1 coin, 1 zuz for 10 parsa. But you wanted to go 1 extra parsa for 11 parsa total, you would have to pay an extra full zuz for 2 zuz. Because breaking free, the reason is, the Alter Rebbe explains, is because the regular route was 10 parsa. The taxi drivers would go 10 parsa back and forth all day, every day. And if you want to go a little bit further than that, then that's way more effort required, way more expensive. It's going to cost you the same amount as another full ride of 10 parsa. And in the same way, the Alter Rebbe says that they would study their Talmud lessons 100 times. They would review their lessons 100 times. That was the status quo. And if somebody reviewed his lessons 101 times, then that was a major achievement because he was breaking free from his comfort zones. And therefore, he's considered somebody who's serving God versus somebody who's only reviewing his studies 100 times is not considered like he's serving God because he's serving God within his comfort level. When we apply that principle of comfort zones to our spirituality, when it comes to the Beinoni, who's fighting with his animal soul, with his intense inner battle, you realize that that Beinoni is constantly breaking his routine. He's constantly needs to arouse a meditation in his mind that creates a full-blown love in his heart that allows his godly soul to dominate and overwhelm the animal soul on the left side of his heart. That is the work of the Beinoni, to quell his desire, overcome his natural instincts, and to do what his godly soul wants him to do, not what his animal soul wants him to do. At the very least, if he can't, if the Beinoni cannot bring up a full-blown meditation that will bring him to full-blown love, at the very least, he can manage his animal soul through a natural instinctive love, not a full-blown love, a love that we'll talk about a little bit later in chapter 18 of Tanya. And that's also called avoda, it's also called divine service, because you're breaking free from your comfort zones. Your comfort zones is just to follow whatever your heart's desire is for right now, whatever pleasures are in front of you. But it's the Beinoni that breaks himself free from those comfort zones, and he does what his godly soul wants, not what his animal soul wants him to do. But if there's no challenge in your life, there's no point. Then you're not serving God if you're still inside of your comfort zones. Applying this to our lives, it's interesting to see how the Rebbe never let us to rest on our laurels. The Rebbe would always encourage us to grow further higher, build bigger and better. As much as the Rebbe thanked us for whatever we might have achieved so far, the Rebbe would say, "Oh, and you expect me to be satisfied with that? You got to keep on climbing." All revolutions are doomed to fail. Think about it this way. All revolutions are doomed to fail. Why? Because if the revolution fails, it fails, obviously. But if the revolution succeeds, then it becomes the establishment. And when it becomes the establishment, it loses the passion and the fire of the revolution because you no longer are trying to change something, you become the establishment. What the Rebbe would do, in my opinion, is that the Rebbe never stopped challenging us. The Rebbe always saw life as a constant growth process, where we had to go from one campaign of tefillin to another campaign of tzitzis to another campaign of mezuzahs and building Chabad houses and studying Torah and so on and so forth until the final campaign of the Rebbe, which was to bring Mashiach. And we're not resting until that is all done and all over. There was one person in Jewish history that I can think of right now that wanted to live without stress, and that was Jacob, our forefather. He wanted to live a stress-free life after he had the troubles of Esau and Lavan, his father-in-law, and Dinah's abduction. He wanted to live at peace, and God says to him, "Oh no, I'm sending you the bear," because there's the bear, the bear, when Joseph was kidnapped by his brothers, because life without stress, life without challenges has no purpose at all. God wants you to break free from your troubles every single day, to reinvent yourself. That's how you serve God. In fact, Abraham, our forefather, was tested by God, and the greatest test of all was the final test, when God tested him to do something which was against his nature, to bind his son Isaac upon the altar. And when God saw that he bound his son upon the altar and was ready to sacrifice him, that's when God says, "Now I know that you're truly God-fearing," because everything you've done until now could easily have been interpreted as just you're a people pleaser, and maybe you're just a nice guy and you just like making other people happy. You just don't know how to say no. But now when God asked him to do something which is defying his nature, which was to bind his son upon the altar, now God says, "Now I know for sure that you're truly devoted to me." On a practical level, folks, if you study Torah, push yourself to learn more, to learn deeper, to meditate on the Torah that you studied. If you pray, then make sure to pray with more intention, with more meditation, with more kavanah. And if you give tzedakah already, then challenge yourself to give more. Because how much tzedakah you're supposed to give, you're supposed to give until it hurts. In tomorrow's lesson, we'll talk about what happens in chapter 16 when your meditation doesn't lead to full-blown love. When it seems to go over like a lead balloon, that's a wrap. Let's try to apply. You can do this.